Today, we are going to see if my good buddy Frankie can compete with World Tour climbers. Frankie is about 6 foot 3 inches or 190 centimeters tall. His specialty on the bike is the time trial. He is really good at going fast for extended periods of time, but usually when the time trials are flat. So today, he is challenging himself. He is going to try to get a top 10 fastest known time up a climb by my house. The current fastest time is held by ex-World Tour rider and current gravel superstar Peter Stetina. In the top 10 fastest times on the climb are all held by incredibly strong climbers. So can Frankie overcome his weight disadvantage and put a time on that leaderboard? Let's find out. So this morning before Frankie got on the bike, we had him do a weigh-in because this is the side of cycling where weight matters. It matters a lot. Frankie weighed in at 181 pounds or 82 kilograms. So we will be able to calculate the watt per kilo after his attempt. Watt per kilo is a measurement that is used in cycling a lot, especially when it comes to climbs. You take the power and watts you did on an effort and divide it by how much you weigh in kilograms, and that gives you your watt per kilo for that certain effort. For example, earlier this week, Frankie did 422 watts for 20 minutes up another climb we did called Pantol. That would put him at 5.1 watts per kilo for that certain effort. 422 watts divided by his 82 kilograms. Now that was a personal best for him, that 422 watt effort, but it was already after doing some other efforts that day, so he was feeling like maybe he could top that effort. In order to crack the top 10 on this leaderboard for this climb Los Alamos, he'd have to do an estimated 440 watts for 17 minutes, which yes, would be harder than that 422 for 20 minutes, but definitely in his wheelhouse. We got that estimation based off someone we know on the leaderboard, our good friend Tyler Mezzi, who is currently 9th. Now this is where it gets interesting. 422 watts would be by far the most raw power out of anyone on the leaderboard, let alone 440. That's why watt per kilo matters so much. Peter Stetina, with the fastest known time, only did 387 watts up this climb, but because of how brutal and steep this climb is, again, it really comes down to how much power you can push versus how much you weigh. Now let's meet Frankie and see his bike choice for this effort.
What's up, everyone? This is my S-Works Tarmac SL6. I think it's a 2020 frame set. I built it up. We've got a pair of NV 3.4s, super light, great for climbing. Got the new Durace 12-speed Di2, super great, super light. The Shimano Pro super light bars, I really like these. They're in 40 wide. And then we got the crazy negative 17 stem. That's about it here. This whole thing with the power meter pedals, it's about 17 pounds in a size 58.
So without further ado, let's have Frankie get into his Los Alamos attempt. As he is going, we will break down the climb and see if he can pull it off. And just like that, Frankie was off on his Los Alamos attempt. Now this climb here in Santa Rosa, again, one that people train on all the time, one of the most famous climbs in the area, is 3.48 miles or 5.6 kilometers long, has an elevation gain of 1,300 feet and an average gradient of 7%. So it is pretty steep. Now the bottom part of the climb that Frankie's on right now is actually pretty steep. It's 9%, you can see in the top right hand corner. But then after this first pitch, it definitely rolls for a little bit, and then there are a couple steep pitches that are double digit gradients. I think it gets close to 20% at one point on this climb, so you really have to save your energy for that. Now Frankie is attacking this climb really well off the bat. You can see his power numbers are really good, even with the conditions of it being insanely foggy, but he's keeping that power up, staying steady, and trying to keep that heart rate under control. So as you can see the meters to go in the top right hand corner, but right here is what I was talking about, kind of where there is a little bit of a downhill kind of roller section after that first steep pitch, and this is where it's really important to stay on the power, stay on the speed, because then it does pitch up again. Like we're back up at 9%, but that was right after, it went to a -%, like you were going downhill during the climb. So again, super important to stay on the speed, stay on the power, and get as aero as possible in order to achieve the best time. And Frankie being a time trial specialist, meaning he's really good at getting low, going fast, and being aero, especially on the flats, this is the part of the climb that he has the least disadvantage, I would say, almost an advantage over the other climbers that are on the top 10. So he has to stay really fast and, you know, look how fast he's taking that corner. What a beast. But stay really fast, put down a good amount of power, but also not too much so he burns himself out. It's kind of a tricky balance. And again, staying low on the bike, as low as possible, while still being able to breathe and put out power. So it's a whole game that he's playing, and he's doing an incredible job at it. Again, in these conditions, yeah, just an incredible effort, Frankie. And you will see later on, we do break above the clouds. This climb is just absolutely gorgeous. So let's see if he can continue to smash it. Okay, and now we are hitting the wall that we talked about, where it just gets so incredibly steep, and you really have to burn yourself through here. And especially for Frankie and I, being on the heavier side of riders, especially on this leaderboard, you kind of have to dump a lot of energy here. And you can see he's up above 500 watts, out of the saddle, absolutely grinding it. He is just putting himself through the hurt. So huge shout out to you, Frankie. And again, you can see that percentile, or that percentage in the top right, 18%. He's swerving back and forth. This part is so incredibly hard. But once you're over this is definitely the hardest part of the climb. And once you're over this, he knows this. He did this climb earlier in the week, but once you're over this, it does get a lot easier. And as you can see, we're starting to break through the clouds here. It's like you can see a light at the end of the tunnel. It's very symbolic. So Frankie just needs to stay on the pedals, get through this part the best he can, and just see if maybe he can crack a top 10. And he made it over the steep part, and now he's just got to do his best to stay on the gas. You can see his power's creeping down a little bit here because he is so cracked from that steep part, but he's doing his best to stay low and arrow and stay fast through this little roller section until there's one more steep-ish part. It's not as steep as the part we just went through, but another little kicker, and then he will be done with the climb. Well, actually, it does roll at the top, so it goes up a kicker, and then it's like rollers at the top, like very aggressive rollers, like downhill, uphill, and then he's done. But as you can see, we've broken through the clouds here. It is just gorgeous, just absolutely gorgeous up at the top of this climb. So let's see if he can make it to the top and crack that top 10. So did he get it? Well, unfortunately, he did not. He actually did Los Alamos early in the week and had a better effort than he did today. To be fair, this effort was at the end of a 29-hour training week we did together, so the fatigue was just too real. Fatigue can definitely affect a performance like this, but maybe that's a conversation for another video. The effort he did earlier in the week, he did 422 watts. Yeah, exactly the same for his 20-minute power effort that he did on Pantel, but on Los Alamos earlier in the week, he did 422 watt average and had a time of 17 17:38. But he didn't know the climb, so he stopped and chilled for a bit once he got to the false flat at the top because he thought the climb was over. Today he did 17 minutes and 37 seconds without stopping, of course, but he just didn't have the legs under him after our big week together. So he will have to come back. Long story short, us bigger riders definitely have to do a lot more power to hang with those smaller climbers. His power efforts on his efforts of Los Alamos are much higher raw power wise than anyone else on the top 10. So maybe with the nutritionist I have access to through the new coaching company I'm working with, the Road Cycling Academy, Frankie and I could do a bit of a shred and see just how far we could take this watt per kilo thing. Comment down below if that's something you want to see, and Frankie, you will definitely have to fly back to NorCal to try this climb again. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you, Frankie, for suffering for the people's enjoyment. And with that, I will see you all in the next one. Peace.